film director John Badham, responsible for such great films as Saturday Night Fever and War Games, also teaches film at Chapman University and is a student of how directors are involved in storytelling. I don't think anyone understands or appreciates the collaborative nature of storytelling better than my friend John Badham. Along with his great work in film, John has also directed a number of television shows. I actually had the honor of having him direct one of my episodes on a TV show, Just Legal. John, it's a real pleasure to have you here. Thank you. You teach now, among other things, along with still directing. I was wondering if maybe you could share with the lawyers who are watching this, the other people interested in storytelling, a little bit about what it is that you do as a director.
Well, our job is to take the stories that have been written or that we're telling and to realize them in the most interesting and exciting ways, which often means, in the case of, say, stories about the law or the courts, that we're trying to do as much research as we can so that we can get inside the heads of all the participants in any kind of case. I mean, you would do that with any kind of story. So one of the joys of being a director is getting to research your subject matter. You know, with War Games, I knew very little about computers.
Right.
And now I know way too much about computers.
We all do. We all
but the excitement of the learning about it is a lot of the fun. And then trying to make something that's interesting and honest up on the screen.
As a director, what challenges do law stories, say in the courtroom, present for the director?
Well, aside from having a huge number of people that you're trying to keep track of, so you're trying to keep them alive, because a lot of this is about human emotions, not just procedure. You want to keep the characters interested in the procedure that's going on and what's at stake for them.
Do you have a sense as to what makes a law story in particular more compelling than another type of story?
Well, there's so much at stake in many law stories, and even probably the ones that might sound dull to us, bond issues or something like that, or wills, but a lot is at stake for a lot of people.
So it matters
and
to them.
That's part of the trick.
Right.
Is can you bring these kind of things alive, and it's a adversarial kind of procedure, which is always good. There's so much conflict involved, and that's why I think this form has always been one of the top storytelling forms.
There's a famous book by Professor Meyer who talks about a lawyer being like a film director, insofar as the lawyer takes the elements of a story and crafts them into an overall narrative.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, he's got to create a way that he's going to tell his story, present his case, whether prosecutor or defense, and how that's going to work. The difference is that he's got to navigate his way through difficulties that are probably unseen.
Right.
Which is what makes it exciting.
The plot twists.
Yes, the director has kind of it mapped out in a normal movie, so he kind of knows how it's going to work out. The lawyer has a way he'd like it to work out, and he's trying to play chess with the other side, and chess with the court maybe also.
I always thought that maybe a closer analogy would be with a jazz performer, because he has to know how to on the fly extemporize. He has to learn how to change things up. I have to ask you one last question. I'm so appreciative of you speaking with us. Your family has a connection with a classic law movie. Could you share what that is?
Oh yes, well, To Kill a Mockingbird, which is in our heritage of films, is starring Gregory Peck, of course, but a little co-star and introducing was my sister Mary Badham, who played Scout. She still is very active in working with this book and with the film. She goes around the country constantly. The book is so popular and has been, mandated reading for decades.
Other than To Kill a Mockingbird, what do you think the best law film is?
Well, Anatomy of a Murder has always got to be,
Up there.
you know, a spectacular one, for one of the first ones dealing with procedure.
Right.
And some of the cases that were being dealt with there, for example, is someone insane.
Right. Right.
And this was, you know, a beautifully written book, and wonderfully performed, especially by the judge, who was a real judge.
Joseph Welch, exactly.
Joseph Welch.
Yeah, became an
Have
actor
you-
out in Hollywood, right?
Yes. Have you no shame, sir?
Yes.
At last, sir, have you no shame, that he said to Joseph McCarthy.
Which is, by the way, in my book. What do you think the influence of law films and the portrayal of lawyers has on the actual practice of law and real lawyers?
I think that it gives unrealistic expectations to people who are plaintiffs and involved in the process, because we see on not only television shows but the Lincoln Lawyer series and whatever, these things solved pretty quickly. You know, 42 minutes and out, bam, this is easy.
Right.
And we know the reality is that things go on for years.
Don't you think Just Legal should have run for at least 5 years?
At least 5.